generation to generation, wisdom passed along where every single member knows exactly where they belong. Yeah, freedom, faith, and family, a powerful decree for the American spirit, wild and truly free. Yeah, wild and truly free.
All right, welcome to another podcast of Reviving the American Family. My name is Zach.
I'm April.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, today we're going to talk about Miss Erika Kirk. So, wanted to take some time. We have some thoughts on Erika. There's a lot being posted, a lot being said, and first of all, Erika, we just want to recognize she's went through something extremely traumatic that we don't wish on anybody. And so we're going to talk about some great positives about Erika. We might mention some things that kind of seem a little off to us, but either way, we want to make sure that you guys understand that we have some great respect for her. Lovely woman, never met her, watched her, ever since this has happened. All eyes have been on her, and she's probably not used to that, of course. She was Miss Arizona, so maybe she is used to that. Yeah. I might have to take that back. But one of the things we talked about in one of our first podcast, was we named this podcast because of something Erika said, which she said that her husband, if he would have ran for president, something that he wanted to focus on was reviving the American family. And you can see that in his works, in what he said, how he talked about God, family, politics. So I believe that to be true. And, unfortunately, I wish that it never happened, but because I think he probably would have been one of our presidents. So it is sad, sad that it happened, especially in the way that it happened. So let's just go ahead and get started. So Erika Kirk. So April, why don't you? It's kind of a cute story, how Erika and Charlie met. So why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
Yeah, I think they met back in 2018?
Yes, 2018.
She had applied for a job at Turning Point, and he took her out. They went to a burger joint, and they had about a 3-hour date. And at the end of it, he said he was asking her questions.
Well, interview, not date.
Or yeah, not a date. It was an interview. That's correct. It was originally meant to be an interview, but he got to talking to her, and he's like, I was asking her a bunch of questions about, her faith and her family life. And I just kind of fell for her then and said, well, I don't want to give you the job. I want to date you. And, you don't have to answer right now, but, tomorrow I'd like to know what your answer is. And, the rest was history from there.
Yeah.
So it's a really sweet story.
Very sweet. Probably not recommended to do an interview.
Probably not HR friendly.
Yeah, not HR friendly.
He's the owner, and he's Charlie Kirk. So
yeah, well, even if you're owner, you can't really ask out your employees unless you have some.
She wasn't an employee.
Definitely not an interview either. so that's interesting that it happened that way. She obviously appreciated it, and she decided to date Charlie. So they started to date, like you said, in 2018. And then they got married in 2021. So they dated for 2.5, 3 years, somewhere around there. And then from 2021, their first child, a daughter, was born in 2022. And then 2 years after that, a son was born in 2024. So they really, started their family pretty quickly. And, Charlie was big on that. He talked about get married young, start a family, and have as many kids as you can possibly have. That was something that he talked about quite a bit. So I doubt in Charlie's mind 2 was their number, but that unfortunately his life was cut short before they could have any more. But did have 2 beautiful children out of that marriage. So so that's a little bit about like how they met. Now, just so you know, Charlie started, I just wanted to remind everybody. So Charlie started Turning Point in 2012. And so that's been about 13 years ago. In 2012, Erika won Miss Arizona. We mentioned that in the very beginning. So she was she had some pretty good credentials on her own. I mean, pageants are difficult and stressful and, those types of things. And and then they have responsibilities after. It's not just, dressing up and looking pretty. It's they have other responsibilities once they win because they represent the state.
Yeah, a lot of those pageant contestants have a nice resume on quite some accomplishments. It's not just a pretty face.
They've done it for years and years. They've
Yeah.
learned talents and how to perform in front of people and those types of things.
PR, all those types of things. They learn all that.
Yeah. But Erika, not just a pretty face. She has a degree in, legal studies?
Legal studies.
So not a law degree, not a JD like I'm going to be a lawyer degree, but it's a degree in legal studies. I'm assuming she used that because before she met Charlie, she was working as a real estate agent in New York.
Yeah.
If we tried to look up like what she was a commercial and what she'd sell, I don't think she did too much because it was for a short period of time.
A lot of people will get their realtor's license like when they're in that realm just for networking, because property moves, especially in upper echelons of New York. I know like Tom Cruise has his real estate license, which you wouldn't think would be necessary, but he does. I don't know if you know that, but I saw him in an interview. He said, yeah, I have my real estate license.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Have him show you some homes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they use it to sell real estate. I think they use it for other
things.
reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So she's got that degree, and she, from what I read, is she's working on a doctorate in biblical studies. That's what she's currently on. As the CEO, as things have changed, I don't know if she's doing that right now because she's a busy woman, but she was working towards that, which is pretty impressive. I kind of thought it was kind of interesting because Charlie was not big on degrees.
Yeah.
But this must have been one that she felt as a mother was going to be something to help her children and help other people as she was doing her thing. But Charlie wasn't a big degree guy.
He didn't have his degree.
No.
He never went to college.
No. And from what, I watched Charlie probably an episode or whatever, probably once a day, something with him at the college campuses or on his podcast, and he definitely wasn't someone that promoted that everybody should go to college. Yeah. Now he did promote it for some, like if you're a doctor, a nurse, the STEMs as we say, he promoted it of course for that, but not necessarily that everybody just needs to go.
Yeah, not everybody needs to go. You don't need to go. There's plenty of other degree or skills you can get out there. HVAC. Electrical, plumbing. Yeah. Those are all really good professions you can get into that just don't need degrees. A lot of IT people don't even go to college. They just get some sort of certificate. Yeah. And then, they go from there.
Well, he called it, I think he called it one of the biggest scams over the American people. You go into college debt for $50,000 plus, you take out loans to live, to buy books, to go to classes, and then there's a big portion that drop out and they don't use it, so yeah.
Didn't you go to college?
Yeah.
I dropped out.
I didn't,
this is for the birds.
I'm a late millennial and it was really pushed on us. And I don't necessarily regret it. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I definitely see the truth in what Charlie was talking about.
We were not the type to rack up debt for it, though. We paid for your college out of pocket what we could. We always went to affordable colleges for you, so we didn't have to rack up that debt. And I just didn't go because I didn't care for school. I wanted to just do what I wanted to do. I wanted to read history stuff. So.
Yeah, you followed more the Charlie Kirk book.
Yeah, I like to learn what I like to learn. I don't like to do additional classes that I had no interest in. And that's what college is. It's a lot of repetitive. Your first 2 years, you're just learning what you learned in high school with your general education. So that whole scam thing to me, I never really understood it. So,
yeah. So so that kind of gives you a little bit of her background. Now, in the meantime, of course, Charlie in 2012 is building TPUSA and even taking it into other countries. I think he was in 3 other countries besides the United States. And he had 540 employees ish, 84 million in revenue, 81 million in expenses. So a lot of money coming in, a lot of money going out. He was also building up the chapters. So they had 900 chapters, which is pretty much like clubs in colleges, and then 1,200 chapters or clubs in high school. So really, really building this, and he built it from the ground level. And when you build a company from ground level, from being nothing to starting to become a large or a medium/large size company like his, I think by number of employees and even probably revenue, it'd be in that medium category, even though that's still a lot of money, $84 million. That's a lot of revenue. But that takes that you build knowledge as you go. And coming into it without some of that, I think is hard to do. So that kind of segues into something that we want to talk a little bit more of a sensitive subject is Erika Kirk, the wife of Charlie. And again, not just a wife, she's done other things, but she's now the CEO taking on the behemoth of Turning Point. And not only that, is Turning Point, a lot of people wanted to start more chapters once Charlie died. I think there was like thousands and thousands of people where it would over double, triple, quadruple the size of how many chapters there are. That takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, and she is in her own right, like I said, wise in her own right. But my concern is she the right person? Not to be the owner. She should be the owner. I'm sure Charlie wanted her to continue to benefit from, and her kids to benefit from, what he started. But should she be the CEO, the final decision maker, and the face?
CEOs are more front facing than an owner would be.
Yeah, a lot of times owners not necessarily take a back seat, but when you get so big, sometimes it's better for them. They're the creative minds, and then your CEOs can be more of the let's create structure, let's build the company.
And networking.
Now Charlie was able to do both, but that's a special talent. He was a creative mind, but he's also an organizer, and not everybody can do that. So she's taken on this role, and my concerns are, is she prepared to do that? And maybe not even that. Is there someone better to take on the growth that they should be having right now, and all the stress that comes with it? Remember, her husband was just killed. I mean, mentally, I don't know how she does it. She's got 2 kids. A lot of moms out there that can do both, but she just had something super traumatic happen. And I don't know if she's got the resume to lead hundreds, potentially thousands of people. That's different. That's a different skill set to lead a group of people. Has she learned those types of things as time has went on? I don't know. And I guess time will tell, but someone that was maybe COO, I think his name is Tyler, would he have been a better pick? That's I guess something for people to think about. I hope and pray for her success. I want her to be successful, but I hope they put her in the position to be successful. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, Turning Point even now is going to have a lot of shots fired at him. Like you're hearing it a lot with Candace Owens. Candace Owens is firing a lot of shots at him, and that's something that I think they're eventually going to have to confront head on.
Yeah,
because she's got a large following and she can potentially do a lot of damage. She knew Charlie personally.
Yeah, yep. So I think that's a piece of the puzzle that I wanted to talk about. Now, I think how it relates to, I always try to bring back the discussion how it relates to us, meaning the people. how we are helping revive the American family. So I think when you have in any position a man or a woman holds for work, they should help their spouses come along with them. So, for example, let's say someone's been at stay-at-home mom their entire life and their husband keeps moving up through the ranks and they start as a salesman and then a manager and then a director and then a vice president. I think a good, healthy marriage, that those skill sets that he's learning along the way, he is teaching that to his significant other. They're talking about what happens happens at work and how he's going to handle it, or maybe even asking advice from his wife and their perspective. But they're growing together, and you're not leaving your spouse behind. So I think that's what we can learn about this. Knowing Charlie, and what makes me feel more comfortable is that it is Charlie Kirk, and I think he was very wise. I think he probably just talked to his wife a lot and discussed what was going along with the company a lot. I think she probably was involved that way. So that does make me a little bit more comfortable that he was a wise man and he probably was doing those things. And I hope I'm doing those things, with you and my wife. And I hope other spouses are always bringing their spouse along.
Yeah. I mean, we've done most of everything. We've been married 21 years now. So we've pretty much grown it all together, our family and whatever adventures we take outside of that.
Yeah.
Financially wise.
Yep.
Financially speaking.
It's good to go on dates or have dinner with your spouse, every night and have that time to talk.
Yeah.
Or go work out together and talk about the day or whatever the case might be. Whatever that you guys feel is kind of your time together to grow together, that's important. Yeah. So I think if I had a message here, hopefully none of us will have that experience where you have to deal with what Erika's dealing with right now, of losing a spouse and making sure it all works out. But we can learn from each other, and that would be something that I would take from this. Make sure your spouse is growing with you. Another thing that I guess we'll talk about as far as Erika, a little bit more touchy, is just we've seen a lot, speaking of touchy, but it's probably not the right word, or maybe it is, but there's a lot of people talking about, how she hugged J.D. Vance, and how she kind of touched or caressed the back of his head.
She took her fingers and caressed them up into his hairline in a very, if I would have saw another woman do that to you, she wouldn't have any hair left. So I was uncomfortable with it, just watching it. And I think any other woman would be quite upset about it as well.
Yeah. It's definitely strange. And if she's going to be the face of TPUSA and Turning Point, she needs to realize the image that she portrays. She might just say, I'm a touchy person. Well, why put her through? You're going to put yourself through these interrogative interviews of people talking about it, at least. You're also going to put now J.D. Vance, who's the vice president, has to worry about it. And then his wife has to, probably think about it or have questions asked to her about what she thinks of it. And I think that, those guys do these questions and interviews so much. But it's just one thing that they have to deal with that's really not important to the country. Yeah. And she's the face. So she might say, well, I'm just touchy-feely. I don't mean anything about it. But it's kind of like, that's kind of like the answer that Andrew Cuomo said when he was kissing girls and said he was Italian, Yeah. So that's just not appropriate.
Well, speaking of the left, though, now they've picked it up and run with it, too. You know, and they've said ridiculous things about it. And
you've given the left ammo.
Yeah, Joy Reid said some stuff about it.
Disgusting thing. Yeah. I can't remember the exact quote, but really disgusting things.
That J.D. Vance was going to dump his brown wife for a white queen or something of the sort.
Brown Hindu, I think is what she said.
Yeah, and it was just disgusting. And it's like he's been married to her for, I don't know, he's been married to her for a long time. He has 2 young children with her. It's just a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah. So she just needs to understand that she's in the spotlight, even more so now than what it was before, and really just understand what people are going to say. Then the other thing that I've heard, or maybe not heard, maybe if I've just to be honest, I've thought myself a little showy. Charlie was very modest. Candace Owens talked about how he was so modest and wouldn't get a new suit, and the suit was too big for him and didn't fit right, but he wouldn't do it because he was so, frugal with, especially with other people's money, and they were traveling a lot, and he was worried about that stuff. And then Erica's got 2 rings on each finger, and I'm probably exaggerating a little
4.
bit.
No, she wears a lot. She's quite showy. She has she's a pageant queen.
Yeah, the pageant queen's coming out. So I think she's got to be careful of that image that she portrays, because again, she doesn't just represent herself. She represents Turning Point, which is a behemoth company and has had a lot of power in this last election. They probably the reason why Trump got reelected. Or played a very large role. I think
he was the number one reason. Charlie Kirk ran a lot of ground game.
Yeah.
With getting him reelected, and I think if it were not for Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, he would not have got a second term.
That's right. I think so too. And then the other thing is, and again, this might be just me, but she goes into this when she talks, she especially about Charlie. I kind of like it, and then I kind of.
Seems kind of intimate.
I kind of makes me a little uncomfortable. She closes her eyes, her voice softens, and it's very intimate. And I understand, if I was thinking at my house about a spouse that had just passed and how I would probably do that in front of everybody. It's just she's putting herself out there, I guess, in a way. But it does make some people kind of feel like, oh, geez, that's a little strange.
Her behavior seems very performative every time she talks about him or just speaks publicly, and I think people they catch on that. But then again, this might go back to her pageant training. Those women who win pageants, they're very trained from a very young age, and she went all the way up to Miss America, where she won Miss Arizona. So that was no small feat there.
Yeah.
But they're very trained from a young age for PR, presentation. And I think when you train someone from such a young age, they kind of lose the how to portray actual, real, genuine feelings.
Yeah.
So at this point in her life, what we're seeing is actually real for her, because it's any kind of emotion has been trained out of her.
Yeah, or just trained in a different way. I wouldn't say trained out of her. I would say
maybe, yeah,
that emotion is authentic for her, but might feel
a little
different or not
else.
authentic-ish to maybe someone like me. And again, I'm being a little bit judgy here, and I probably shouldn't be, because, like I said, nobody wishes this on any. No good person wishes this on Erika. I mean,
I think
she's done, especially how she forgave. Even if that was a little bit of performance there, I don't think it was. To say I forgive the killer of my spouse, I go to church every Sunday, and I pray to our Heavenly Father.
I read my scriptures.
I read my scriptures, and I watch podcasts about religious stuff. But to forgive or even announce that you're forgiving them within a couple weeks, better person than I am. Yeah. I couldn't do it.
I'm more like Trump. I don't like my enemies.
yeah. He announced right after that he didn't.
It killed the vibe a little bit, but
yeah. So anyway, that's again, want to leave it on a good note. Erika seems like a wonderful person, religious, conservative. It's those are things that we want to promote, within our podcast, our way of living. There's just a few things that, when you're in the spotlight, people will probably do it to me and say, Zach, X, Y, and Z, and your shirt's wrinkled or whatever. And we'll learn as we go. And we like to hear the feedback. So please, if you think I should be wearing a different shirt or combing my hair a different way, let me know. But any comments, on the podcast or your thoughts about Erika, we would appreciate it. April?
Well, and kind of on a last note here, I think Erika is wonderful. I would rather hands down have her as an influence for our 4 daughters than some of the influences like we have a Chapel Roan or, Kardashians, those types of things. Erika Kirk is by far, hands down, a much better option for an influence.
Yeah, one of our daughters is reading a couple books from Charlie, and she will be paying attention to Erika too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's she's an influence for good, and we hope and pray for Erika and her success running Turning Point. She's gonna need it. That's a big position. So
is.
pray for Erika, pray for Turning Point. It's done a lot of good in the world, and we want it to keep on doing
Continue.
good. Yeah.
Continue that.
So, all right. Well, appreciate your time today, being with us, listening to the podcast. Again, like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff that you're supposed to do if you can. We'll have a link there. Please donate. Anything that you can would be great. We
Yep.
would appreciate that. Here, eventually, we'll have some products to sell and some other things that we'll be promoting. But if you could donate, we really do appreciate any donations we can receive. So, thanks, and have a great rest of your day.